hookers, gold, and the plague. That sounds like fun. Good evening and welcome to day 30 of the 100 Days of Shakespeare. It's great to have you here. My name's Paul Adams from Small Crown Productions. If you are not aware of what the 100 Days of Shakespeare is, then there is a link in the description below where you can check that out a little bit later. Tonight we are having a look at another Ben Jonson play, his probably most famous play, and certainly considered his best comedy, The Alchemist. This is a great play. We're going to do a bit of a speed run through as a synopsis tonight. It's a little bit less complicated overall than Every Man in His Humour, so this won't take quite as long. So let's jump into the synopsis. So this play was written, it was first performed in 1610, so it would have been written just before that. It was actually performed first by the King's Men, so Shakespeare's company, given royal patent by King James I. So this is a pretty big deal. Now this is 1610 when Jonson is really kind of at his peak as a writer. He has written, in the sort of period from 1605 to 1612, 8 of the court masques that played every year. So he has really risen to quite good notoriety as a playwright, which is amazing. And so for this to be first performed by the King's Men in 1610, it's a pretty big deal. We know that Shakespeare performed in a version of Every Man in His Humour in 1616. So, Jonson and Shakespeare would have had a pretty good relationship, and they certainly knew each other and were well acquainted. So let's have a bit of a look through the play. It starts with Lovewit, who is a gentleman, deciding that he's going to leave town for a while and go and live in his country house because there is an outbreak of the plague. So, not an uncommon thing. There'll be an episode coming up soon about plagues. It's very fitting. And we'll dig into that a little bit more in that episode. But needless to say, plague outbreaks were not unheard of and not uncommon. So he decides to go to the country house and he leaves his butler, Jeremy, in control of the house. Now, it turns out that Jeremy, bit of an opportunist, and so he actually connects up with his friend and fellow conman Subtle and a prostitute named Dol Common to essentially use the house to con a few people as much as they can. So we then sort of dig into the interactions where they're conning all of these people. And, this is just a very general wash, and there's so much in this play. It's a 5-act play. So this is obviously all very surface level kind of explanation. But the first person that we meet, is first customer is Dapper, who is, a local lawyer's clerk, and he wants a familiar, a spirit guide to help him with his gambling. The second person that we meet is Abel Drugger, who is a local tobacconist, who is after he wants to help his shop earn lots of cash. So he's looking for a bit of sciencey spiritual guidance and help to help his business along. And then the next person that comes along is a guy called Mammon, and he turns up to the house with his mate Surly, and Surly is convinced that this alchemy stuff is a scam, and he's out to prove them wrong. He's out to prove that they're lying to him. Mammon, however, is convinced. He's convinced that this is real. Now, he takes a bit of a fancy to Dol Common, and she's totally fine with that, of course. Being a prostitute, it means that she is able to, sleep with him, get more money, and take him for a bit more of a ride. But Surly is not too happy about this. Mon convinced, he basically organises for all of his metal to be brought over to the house, because this guy has actually been paying Subtle for some time to make him a philosopher's stone so that he can essentially turn his metal into gold. So they convince him to send all his metal over to the house while they finish making the philosopher's stone. So there is lots of other interplay that happens. There's a few other customers that come along and get conned, and that's where it all starts to really heat up, and we get lots of people interacting throughout the scenes. So, kind of skipping forward a little bit, Surly turns up in costume and decides that he's going to try and out the fake alchemists. But he tries to organise a meeting with Dol Common, but he gets introduced to another lady who is there, another widow. And so he ends up proposing to her, reveals who he is, they propose, he proposes to her, so he's kind of sorted romantically. But in the midst of all of this, there's a few other people that come along and get conned, and Lovewit returns home. So Lovewit comes home and his neighbour tells him everything that's been going on, and after a few interactions, Jeremy has to fess up, basically, to Lovewit. So Lovewit says that he will let him off the hook if he helps him get married to a widow who was one of the people that had been through. And so Lovewit says, yep, no problem. Jeremy agrees, because it also means that Jeremy gets to keep his job. So long story short, the two of them convince Subtle and Common that the police are on their way and that they need to get out quick, and they don't have time to collect all of their half of the profits of the scam. They've just got to go, and so they rush out, leaving all of their takings behind. And then when the police do actually turn up with a whole bunch of these people in tow, Lovewit essentially convinces them that nothing's been going on. He's got no idea what they're talking about. This is his house. This guy's his servant. What are they talking about? Convinces them nothing's been happening. Sends the police away and everybody off as well. So in the midst of this, Lovewit gets to marry the widow. Jeremy gets to keep his job. And of course, Lovewit also gets to keep all of the stash that Mammon had sent over, and essentially retires happily at the end of the play. He's happy because he's got all this stash of goods. So there you go. Pretty simple overview, but gives you a bit of an idea of the play. It's a mad play. Like it's a fun play. I've seen it produced. I've read it. It's actually a fun play, and I definitely recommend you check it out and read it. So there you go. A bit of an overview of Ben Jonson's The Alchemist. And I encourage you to click some of these other videos that you'll see appear on the screen and check out some of the other videos we've got here as part of the 100 Days of Shakespeare. It would be great if you gave this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and of course, I'll see you on the next one.